Hi, so today I am chatting with the amazing, inspiring, impressive Dr. Pauline Morris. she's really modest. That's another adjective. I Pauline and I have known each other for a few months, and I think I got to know her through a podcast interview that I heard her do, and I was so blown away by how incredible she is, really, that I just had to see if she would come and talk to me about leadership, her leadership journey, because she is a very inspiring and impressive leader, as is, what I like talking about, female leaders and how fantastic they are. So without further ado, I'll let Pauline introduce herself and tell us about her main leadership roles at the moment. Over to you.
Thank you, Adam. I'm blushing. And if anybody knows me, I'm a little bit speechless. Thank you for that introduction. It's absolutely sterling. And
my pleasure. No, it's all true.
So okay, all right, a little bit about me. I'm a consultant anaesthetist. That's my day job and sometimes my night job. And I've been doing that for over 20 years, over 4 different regions of the world. So that's been great fun. I'm currently in Qatar. That's my last adventure in foraying into medicine, I think. Aside from that, the 2 things within medicine that really get me excited is medical education. And I've got a degree in certificate in medical education, and I'm assistant professor for Cornell here in Qatar. And risk analysis and quality and safety is also the second hat that I wear. In my journey in medicine, there are things that came to me, like those 2, and there are things that evolved as I went along. And the second part of that, which is very important to me, and I know this is the corny bit and everybody says that I'm very passionate about, is helping doctors find successful career paths in medicine, and doing that without burning out, and doing that with the understanding that you can still have a happy and fulfilling life. So that's one of the things that I've been working really hard on of late, to help physicians do that. And one of the things I've done recently as well, which I'm very pleased about, I've joined the Royal Benevolent Fund. And if you don't know anything about them, please have a look. They're an amazing institution that offer real help to physicians in all kinds of capacities. And I'm very pleased to say I work with them now as well, as part of my giving back to healthcare and to healthcare professionals. And lastly, I also coach doctors, and I do that under the remit of Doctors Caring for Doctors. And you can find us on Instagram, on Twitter. That's our webpage as well. And you can also find us on Facebook. So I'm keeping myself really busy. I've recently become a grandmother. That is very exciting. So family life is really great. He's such an adorable little man, and he just absorbs all of my heart. And that's me in, I don't know, 30 or more sentences.
Awesome, thank you so much. So you're a consultant anaesthetist, so you have a clinical leadership role, you have the kind of the risk and the quality hats as well that you wear within your clinical roles. Obviously you're an associate professor, so that's another leadership role within education. You're involved with the Royal Medical Benevolent Fund. You have your own coaching organization and that supports other doctors. So you're a leader within that field as well. You're a shining beacon, really. Doctors Caring for Doctors. And of course, being a grandmother is a very important leadership role as well. Your grandson's going to be modeling himself on you. So, you have to keep up those good leadership attributes. Awesome. That's fantastic. Indeed. So, yeah, I just wanted to delve a little bit more into your leadership journey within medicine, and when you first kind of started to take on leadership roles, and what they were and how they came about, if that's all right.
Sure. It's funny, there's the adage about whether leaders are created or they are inherent. And then there's the argument about the difference between being a leader and leadership in and of itself.
Yeah.
And when I did my MBA, I actually chose to look at leadership within medicine. So that brought some really interesting things to the fore at the time. And one of the things that was really surprising to me is I actually never considered myself a leader or in a leadership position within medicine. And that actually came as a little bit of a surprise to me. My journey within medicine so when I think about my journey in medicine as a leader, it's different now since I've done that. As a child, I was probably always put into leadership positions. And that's perhaps the inherent part of it that I didn't really appreciate. But something really interesting happened when by the time I got into medicine, I was already a young single mom, and I had the experience of that behind me. And that experience really knocked a lot of my, I don't want to say confidence, that's not the right word, the belief in myself to function within the society, the systems, and the culture in which I lived. That's what it really impacted on for me. And when I got into medical school, I had to face a lot of prejudices because I was a young single mother, and I was the only young single mother. Everybody else who were parents were older and married. And, for me, I was the square peg in the round hole. I'm still the square peg in the round hole. And I think that sort of influenced my choices in putting myself forward or considering whether or not I should be in leadership positions. After I left medical school and I started medicine, there were other factors that came into play that I hadn't given credit to before, and things I hadn't been exposed to before. And one of them was actually being female, and then being female of color. Now, coming from the West Indies, some people will find this shocking to hear, but it does matter what color you are, even though the majority of the people in the Caribbean are of color. It does matter. And the lighter you are, the more likely you are to be pushed forward, to be offered opportunities. And then, if the opportunity arises, you're just like everywhere else, you're more likely to be in that position if you're male and white, quite frankly. When I came to the UK, that's when I really encountered a huge change in culture that I was not expecting. And again, it very much impacted on what I put myself forward for, how I saw myself. And I really spent a lot of my time just trying to get through the training period. It wasn't until I became a consultant, I would say, that I really stepped into my own power and my own abilities to take on projects and take on leadership positions. And again, it wasn't a decision that I made. I want to lead something. It sort of came by default, where I'm really good at this. I really enjoy it. I care about it. And that was quality. One of them was quality and safety. And so I'm gonna get in there, and I'm gonna get into to how the systems and processes work, and find out ways to improve them. Medical education kind of fell into my lap probably in the latter years of my registrar training, because there were a few other people who recognized that I was good at it. I didn't recognize I was good at it. And those people, and one of them was Dr. Heike Bojar. She's a consultant anaesthetist at the London. And she was one of those people who really said, look, you're really good at this. I think you should do it. And she encouraged me to go into simulation and things like that. And that's when I kind of thought, hey, you know what? I'm good at this and I can do it. And within the first couple of years of my consultancy, that's when I sort of started stepping up into positions and putting myself forward and going, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, I'll be good at it. Yeah, I can see where the problems are. I've got solutions. I want to do this. But even then, it was a bit like, oh, no, I just want to help. I just want to make the world a better place. I just want to make, the hospital safer. I want to make trainees feel more, well, less like how I felt. That I'll be honest, that's how that came about.
Yeah.
So when I stepped in those positions, into appraisal, into working with foundation trainees and anesthetic trainees, that is where that stemmed from. It was more of, I don't want anybody to feel the way I feel. I don't want anybody else to feel disempowered the way I felt disempowered. So if I take on these roles and I can have these trainees and I can coach them and talk to them, I didn't know coaching was a word back then either. But if I can help them, get through these phases that I really struggled with, I'm doing something for the greater good.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to hear you talk about me in all of these leadership positions, because in my head, I'm still thinking, no, I'm just doing what I'm really good at. And, I'm helping to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
But yes, I have to, step into that and give myself a few taps on the shoulders every now and then and go, well done, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
This wouldn't happen. This wouldn't be happening without you.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I've heard your story before on podcasts, a few podcast interviews, and that's why I just had to speak to you. It's so inspiring. You're a single mum. You went through med school. You moved country. Your family, your mum and your grandmother were still in Barbados, I guess. And he,
Yes.
he were in a UK, junior doctor, young child, and a lot of people would be really fazed by all of that. And you were in a completely different culture. You were, a woman of color, in England. When was it? In the 90s?
In the late 90s, early 2000. Yeah.
So there are always challenging times in living as a person of color in England, I think, but also working. Seriously, sadly, but also within the NHS, which we know to be to have lots of pockets of toxicity, and so it would be surprising to me if you weren't on the receiving end of some of those attitudes and some toxic conduct by managers, by your own medical leaders. Are there any particularly prominent episodes that you experienced that you're happy to talk about, that other people might learn things from?
My first year as a registrar in London was very, very difficult. I had spent about nearly 20 months in Yorkshire before that, and it was an epic experience. If it had been the other way around, I would have never stayed in England. If I'd landed in that institution first, I don't even know if I would have managed the year, if I'm honest. So part of the shock was, one, I'd never had these experiences before. And two, it was like, people talk about the North-South divide, right? And I genuinely believe it is a thing, not just physical. There's cultural, there's societal differences. And when I landed in my first job in London, in one sentence, I couldn't seem to do anything right. I couldn't get anything right. If I turned up and I got stuff ready for the case, it was, who do you think you are? Don't presume you know what I'm doing for the patient. You're here to learn, da, 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 da. If I turned up and I went, okay, I'm going to wait for you to tell me what to do, it was, why are you here? You're supposed to be. what do you think? You're here to work. You're not just here to, swing by. And, and it was just like, I just couldn't win.
Yeah.
And things that I had been applauded for previously in my career, all of a sudden were the wrong things to do. If I spoke up, I was being aggressive. If I didn't speak, I was not engaging.
Yeah.
I just couldn't win. And it was a constant bombardment on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really struck me was how once they'd figured out, because I'd pretty much finished my anesthetic training back in Barbados. So if I had gone through the system differently, I would have been entering as a consultant. But at the time, I thought I was just coming for a visit and go back to Barbados. Mm-hmm. But I ended up in the training program. So I was quite senior, and I'd been delivering anesthetics for a while now. And once that was worked out, I was kind of people would just disappear. So my first year where I was really excited about learning all these different ways of doing anesthetics that we didn't have in the Caribbean, either due to lack of resources or lack of equipment or whatever, I didn't have that experience, because people kind of realized, oh, right, okay, I can, sorry, I'm going to say it, I can just piss off into the office and leave her to do all the work.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
And then the end of the year came, and they had just started introducing all of these assessments and things that you had to get signed off. And all of these people who left me to do all their lists, to work nights, weekends, long days, on calls, nobody wanted to sign me off.
Right.
I'd done 6 months of obstetrics, and the obstetric lead actually said to me, oh, I've never seen you give a spinal. And I thought, well, of course you've never seen me give a spinal, because you were never there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it really got confrontational. And this, actually, no, it didn't get confrontational, because I was just so shocked. I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I did not know who to speak to, where to go to.
Yeah.
And incidentally, the person who refused to sign me off was actually the college tutor. So I didn't even have that. I couldn't go to the college tutor and say, well, what do I do here? And now I'm starting to panic, because I'm thinking, I'm new to the system. I had no idea where to go, what to do. And it was just like, well, if I don't get signed off, what's going to happen? Am I going to lose my job? Am I not going to be? I was in an absolute flurry of negativity and disaster management.
Yeah.
And the thing that really hurt, and this actually genuinely hurt me, was I went to one person to get signed off for day surgery. And the person said to me, I'm happy to sign you off. You're an excellent anaesthetist. I don't know what everybody has a problem, what everybody's problem is. And I just looked at him, because I had no idea that the entire department had a problem with me.
Oh.
I kind of knew, but I'd kind of forgotten. That's another part of the story. But I didn't realize the impact. Nobody ever sat me down and said, hey, Pauline, you're not gelling in the department. We're concerned. Nobody ever actually really did that. And the person who was supposed to be my mentor, who supposedly had a conversation with me, and if we have time, I'll talk about that. That was not what I understood from the conversation that we had. And I actually got signed off by threatening the department. I basically went to the hospital administration, and I said, please give me a list of every single case that I have done on my own, which was pretty much everything after the first 6 weeks I was there. And I had to go back to them and say, look, these are all the lists that you allowed me to do by myself with no supervision, all the nights, all the weekends, with zero supervision, right? Well, no immediate supervision. And now you're telling me that I'm not fit enough to sign off. So this is actually your problem. Because if you're saying I'm not fit enough to sign off, and you allowed me to work like this, you've now got to defend yourself.
Yes.
And that's how I got signed off for my first year. I had to threaten the department, and it was just like, oh my God, what do I do with this? And I spent a whole year doubting myself, worrying about my skill sets, worrying about how people saw me. I was just in this, I spent a whole year feeling as if I was under somebody's heel. And I had never had that experience before in my life.
Mm.
And it was actually empowering to be able to go back to them and go, listen, you messed up, right? And if you don't want to fess up to messing up, you got a problem here.
Yeah.
And actually, it wasn't until that moment, after a year had gone by, where I really thought, you know what? These people are awful.
Mm.
They're bullies. They're prejudiced. They're racist. They're discriminatory. And you know what? This is not my fault. It's not my fault. I am a good person. I am a good anesthetist. I am a good communicator. People enjoy working with me. This is not my problem. But when you have a whole department telling you that you are a problem,
Yeah.
how do you, it was impossible at the time living in it
Yeah.
to understand my way out of it, and having no one to speak to about it, no one to help me gain some perspective, to help me understand what I could do to either make the situation better, how I could look at myself. You know, there was just, I just had to get through it.
Yeah.
But having that experience meant that for the rest of my career, I felt very disempowered, and I never really felt like I could put myself into these leadership positions, because I always felt that everybody was looking at me and judging me based on just what I looked like.
Right. Right. So I don't even know where to reply to that.
I'm shocked you.
Well, no, I'm actually, yeah, I'm not. I mean, God, you know, I'm a white bloke, and I've been bullied on, you know, countless occasions as a junior doctor. So I have the insight to realise that if white male doctors can be bullied to that sort of extreme, then for any women or any people of color or any women of color, then it must be, you know, a dozen times worse at times. So I just I think it's the gall and the shamelessness of these people that they've almost taken it to a new level. You know, I've heard about things like that happening before, but that's like on another level. You know, I'm presuming you know, you mentioned racial discrimination, and there was probably misogyny there as well. I'm guessing, I know that female colleagues of mine have faced that as well. And I'm guessing it was more of the sort of casual microaggressive type stuff than really obviously overt. Is that correct to say, or was anyone ever?
Yeah, I think so. And back then, there wasn't, the term microaggression didn't exist.
No.
And the thing that you were always told is that either you were too sensitive, or you're taking things the wrong way,
Yeah.
or, and this is really interesting. When you speak to another female, when you speak to, as a female, speaking to a white female about how these things are happening to you, the first thing they say to you is, oh, no, it's not because you're black, it's because you're female. And I remember saying to one of my, and she's a wonderful person. She's actually a great friend of mine. And I said to her, okay, so you're telling me this is happening to me because I'm female. So are you really telling me that you think that I'm better off being black and female? And she kind of just looked at me really shocked. And I think that's when the moment dawned on her, when, because up until then it was like, oh, no. I get all of this as well. You know, oh, no. It's not, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I get called nurse all the time. Yeah, this is, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about other little things.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult, because everybody tells you that you're being hypersensitive. You read it the wrong way. Oh no, it's happened to me. Or, you know, and it's a difficult thing to verbalize. It's a difficult thing to get people to recognize. And when you get this constant thing about, oh no, it's you,
Yeah.
it's hard not to start believing that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard not to start looking introspectively and thinking,
Oh,
am I
yeah.
just too sensitive?
Yeah.
Do I need to learn to play the game? Am I just being stubborn? But no, there is this aspect of it and this element of it. And I think coming from the West Indies as well, I was a completely unknown entity. Because when you look at the makeup of the NHS, West Indian females are usually nurses or midwives. There are very few West Indian female doctors within the NHS. I probably know all of them, if I'm honest, right? I can think of 5 off the top of my head, and we're spread all through the British Isles. So when people looked at me, the first thing they see you're female, they see you're Black, and they make assumptions based around that. They see you're male and Asian, they see you're white and female. Everybody has prejudices and everybody makes assumptions. That's not the bad thing. The bad thing is when you let those assumptions and prejudices lead your conversation and your decision making. And this is where I think we struggle a bit, and on both sides of it. Understanding that sometimes you don't recognize where your prejudices are taking you. So for me, people would look at me and see and expect certain behaviors of me because they've made assumptions about who I am because of what I look like. And then I'll open my mouth and then they'll look surprised because they'll be like, oh, you're not African. Oh, you're not British. Oh, are you American? No, I'm not American. And this is how the conversation starts because I open my mouth, people go, oh, because it's a surprise. So, and that filters into how they see me as a physician. And one of the things I was really looking forward to when I moved to England was, as I said before, learning, and actually physically being able to take part in anesthetic techniques and using equipments and drugs that were just not available in the West Indies. And one of the things I was told in my review was that I was aggressive. I was always challenging people. And I was like, what do you mean? You mean like, so basically what they were saying is when I say, oh, so why do you do it that way? Or why did you do this and not do that? Instead of looking at me and going, and maybe if I was white, they would go, oh, this person wants to learn from me. This person is looking up to me. This person is seeing me as someone who can impart knowledge and information and skills. When they looked at me as a Black person, they went, oh, you're being aggressive. You're challenging me. You want to know why I'm doing this. Well, yes, I want to know why, because I'm a trainee and I'm supposed to be here to learn. So, and when I brought this up later on, the person said to me, oh, well, Pauline, you're a very strong personality. Maybe it's how you say, why do you do it? And I'm like, seriously? You mean there are no other strong personalities in the department other than me? I'm the only trainee with a strong personality? Because the other trainees with strong personalities don't seem to have this problem. Incidentally, they were not of color. So, it was really interesting how people would interpret anything I said or anything I did. It was almost like, it was almost I didn't have the right to ask a question. I'm aggressive and I'm challenging. And, and I remember I got told, somebody tried to tell me off on a ward round because I didn't, apparently they thought what I was saying was wrong. I knew what I was saying was right. And I remember the conversation ended with, so you believe, so is that what you're sticking with? And I said, well, yes, that's my understanding of the situation. And the person said, get off my ward round. And I said, okay. And I left. And after that, the nurse in charge came to me, this is months later, and she said, I was so pleased to see how you reacted because I'd never seen somebody not break down, not cry, not get all in a fluff with this person. And I was so proud of you. And I remember looking at her thinking, I didn't realize that this was a thing. I didn't realize this was an altercation. I just thought he was in a bad mood, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to,
Yeah.
if you tell me go have a coffee, I'll go have a coffee, right?
Yeah.
But it's like this stuff just came at you. And
Yeah.
sometimes I recognized it, sometimes I didn't recognize it. Sometimes I was genuinely confused, like that ward round. I was just confused. I was like, I'm not sure what the issue is here. You asked me a question, I gave you an answer, and now you're telling me to leave your ward round. Okay, I'll go have a coffee. No problem. So, it just came from it was a constant bombardment.
Yeah.
And like I said, because of that, I never really I probably never reached the potential that I could have done, even starting as a trainee, because I always felt that everybody was looking at me going, oh, that doctor, I was Bab at the time, that Dr. Bab, she just doesn't fit in. So if I'm not fitting in, how can I possibly take on a leadership position? Leadership, there's requires followership. And if everybody thought that I couldn't do the job I was supposed to be doing, how could I possibly do a job that I'm volunteering to be doing?
Yeah.
It was intense, man.
Yeah. It's that period of your life sounds well, firstly, I mean, kudos to you for getting through it and sticking with it, because people would I'm sure people would leave medicine under that kind of pressure, and I probably would have done. So I think you obviously were very resilient. I know that's a bit of a poo-pooed word these days, resilient, but I think you must have been pretty resilient just to have tolerated all of that and carried on regardless. But obviously it had an impact on you, and you said, you alluded to it would have knocked your confidence and so on. And I know people who have been, bullied pretty badly, and it's led to them developing full on, frank imposter syndrome. And that's one of the sequelae of bullying that I'm quite interested in. But as you say, then you're not feeling like you are capable of putting yourself forward for leadership roles, or that you're being respected and so on. I'll give you a quick anecdote that came out of me coaching a Black American orthopedic surgeon a few months ago, who is a real high flyer, very, very young, and has progressed through the ranks really quickly, and was recently invited to join the board of the sort of the committee for all the orthopedic surgeons, I think, within this corporate that he worked for. And he said he would sort of sit there, listen to all the things being discussed, and he would want to say something, but he'd stop himself from saying things, and he would think, I have better things to say than some of these people. I have valuable things to say in these meetings, and I just sort of said to him, can I just ask, is the rest of this committee or board made up of white men, purely white men? And he's like, yeah. I was like, so you're the only person of color on, in this group? He's like, yeah. I said, and so do you think you have some kind of imposter syndrome around this? Because of that he was sort of imposing on himself, I think. And yeah, I mean, it was a really interesting discussion, and we worked through some of that stuff, and it really helped. But it's difficult, isn't it? How did you then I mean, obviously you played an absolute blinder. I have to say, I mean, that was class. I mean, just holding the mirror up to them saying, okay, so you're saying I'm not competent. So basically you've let a non-competent person anesthetize solo for the past 12 months. Yeah. That might have some implications for your accreditation as a training unit moving forward if you don't sign me off. So, I mean, I just think that was a stroke of genius. So, yeah, good on you for that one. But did you overcome the negative impact that had on you when you moved? Because as a trainee, you move, don't you, every year or so? You go to a different unit to be exposed to different people and different, sized hospitals and so on. Was it better when you moved on? Is that how you kind of improved
yeah,
things?
that was part of it. I mean, that was probably the worst experience. There were other little pockets after that, but that was probably the worst experience that year, that first year. And the thing is, it's that phrase, birds of a feather. When you create an environment where this sort of thing happens, you bring the sort of people that perpetuate that environment. So it was a part of that situation was, this was the culture of that institution. I wouldn't say that it was I don't want to say too much. Obviously people could go and research and find out who I'm talking about, but that department was known for being a difficult department to be in. And I think I threw them off completely, because they were accustomed to a certain kind of trainee that they could treat a certain kind of way. And I just set the apple cart for them. Moving on from them, I met other people who were incredibly supportive. Again, I did come across other people where I would just sort of look at them and think, I've met you before. I know who you are, or how your brain works. And this time I was a bit more prepared for it. But I'll tell you the resilience. Hey, we won't talk about resilience. We'll do that maybe another day. The thing that I think got me through that the most, and this is what I speak to my clients about, is why. Your why, your motivation. What is it that you are willing to endure for this purpose? And for me, my why, my motivation was my child. I had found a way to create a life for her that I wanted her to have. Okay, yes, being a doctor gave me a certain life as well, and I'm very grateful to that, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it now. But back then, when I wasn't enjoying it, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed medicine. I enjoyed I love being an anaesthetist. I think it's the best specialty in the world, right? Sorry, everybody else. It wasn't about that. It was enduring the circumstances that I was in, knowing that there was an endpoint, knowing that there was something that I was working towards. I wasn't running from something, I was running towards something, and I was focused, intent. This is what I have to do to get through this. I will do it. What I learned over the course of the time is how to care for myself better. Because what I spent a lot of time doing was berating myself and self-flagellation and just thinking, what am I doing wrong? How could I be better? What actually really kept the paddling under the water was my motivation and my why. If you understand your why and your motivation, this is how you get through whatever it is you're going through. This is how you make the decisions about what's good for you and what's not good for you. And that is the self-care part. This is how I ended up leaving the NHS, because, okay, I'd achieved my why, I'd achieved my motivation. My child was all grown up. She got an education. She got a good education. She can take care of herself. She's got her own life now. And it was like, well, okay, now you've done this. What do you need to do for you? What do you need to do for yourself? And it took me 7 years, which is, to really work out, hang on a minute, I deserve to be happy. I don't need to live like this anymore. I have a choice in the matter. I don't need to do this. When I was a trainee, I couldn't see another way. There probably was one.
Yeah.
But at the time was different. We're talking about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Times were different, resources were different, expectations were different. And I didn't have the resources to make that decision. But as a consultant, it suddenly, it didn't suddenly dawn on me. It happened over a period of time. And it was like, no. You deserve to have your happy, healthy. You deserve to have a successful career and a happy life. It shouldn't be one or the other.
Yeah.
It should be. And these little pockets of joy that I have in my life, like my family, like working with really good colleagues, my husband, it was these little pockets that kept me grounded and going, hang on a minute, well, if I was that bad, I wouldn't have these wonderful friends. If I was such aggressive, difficult person to be with, how would I have such lovely, amazing people in my life? Hang on a minute, this is not my problem. This is the system's problem.
Yeah.
And there's only, and the realization that I made was there was only so much I could do within the system.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to make a decision about where you're going to have your impact and how you want, as physicians, we are givers. We give back. We want to give. It's inherent in us. We want to take care of our community, our society, our brothers, our sisters. We want to care for people. But what we have not learned is how to do that and still care for ourselves. Yeah. And this was the revelation that I had. I can still do my job. I can still be a carer. I can still be great. I can still enjoy anesthesia and have a great life. I can still do that. Yeah. And I don't have to stay in the current system I'm in. I don't have to do what I'm doing now. I have options. What are my options? And this is where my journey started into the whole mantra of a successful career and a happy life. I had a successful career. By my definition, I had a successful career. Yeah. By someone else's definition, I may not have a successful career because I'm not well published. I don't get invited to speak at international conferences. I'm not the known expert in, I don't know, mitochondrial DNA and sevoflurane. I'm not that person. And that's okay with me. And this is the thing that I think that as physicians, we just don't know, that you decide what success means for you. And if success means for you, you get up, you turn up, you do your job, you come home, that's fine. Yeah. If success means that you run the entire medical education department, that's fine. If it means that you publish 20 papers a year, that's whatever success means to you, that's fine. And you are allowed to be happy within what you have decided is your success. It doesn't need to be your mother, your fathers, your sisters, your supervisors, your mentors, your parents. It's your success and it's your happy life. And I'm not sure I've actually answered your question here, but it's just I so want other doctors to understand this. It's okay to not want everything. It's okay to not do everything. It's okay to not have your hand in every cookie jar. Yeah. It's okay to do the things that you enjoy and do them really well and really contribute positively to your work environment, to your home life, to your personal health. It's okay to pick a couple of things, be really good at them, and feel good about it.
Yeah, yeah. So essentially, in a nutshell, to acknowledge that you are enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
And whatever your contribution, that is enough. Yeah, if you choose to give more, if you want to give more, that's great. Yeah. If you can give more, that's great. But if you are at your edge and just turning up for work is basically what you can do, that's great. Yeah. Thank you for coming to work.
Yeah.
You've helped a patient. Yeah. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being a doctor. Yeah. You don't need to be doing everything.
No, you're right. That is an achievement in itself, isn't it? That's what I suppose I was sort of alluding to before, the fact that you, despite really, really swimming against the tide when you were a junior registrar in the UK, in London, you managed to get through it, and you didn't need to fly through it. You didn't, with plaudits galore and whatever. You had such a sort of swathe of negativity coming towards you. For you just to get through it, I think was tremendous, and it was more than enough, really.
Yeah.
And what I think I'm hearing you say as well, and you did answer my question in a beautifully illustrative way when I asked about how you sort of overcome some of those trials and tribulations. It sounds to me like, you, like all of us, we have, depending on which magazines you read, anywhere between 12 and 60,000 negative thoughts a day, of which sort of anywhere between 80 and 90% of them are recurrent. And the more negativity that you're on the receiving end of, and the more kind of people say things about you, like, you're a trouble causer, you're too loud, you're too aggressive, why are you questioning me? That just feeds the beast, doesn't it? That kind of puts more negative thoughts into your head, and then you could then start hearing your inner critic saying you're too loud, you're too aggressive, etc., etc. And we know now, and as you say, at the time, coaching wasn't even on your radar. Now we know that they are just thoughts, that we can just like bat them away and say, yep, that thought is not serving me, I'm going to ignore that thought. But it sounds to me like what you did was you concentrated on the positive things in your life, like your family, like your relationship, like your friends. And also you use those relationships, the fact, you thought about it. Well, I'm a popular person. People like me. So what are that lot at that big shiny building down the road talking about? They don't know. They don't know me. They don't know you, did they? They didn't know you. They're not friends. They didn't socialize with you. So it's like, well, actually, I've got all the external validation I need to demonstrate to me that I am a good, likable person. And that was more than enough to counter the crap that was coming at you from your colleagues. So you sort of reframed it a bit, didn't you? You could easily have chosen to believe what the hospital staff were telling you, but it's like, actually, no, thinking about it, I'm a good person. I'm a liked person. I'm a loved person. I've got a lot of friends. So I think that's a really, without even knowing anything about mindset, because the whole inner critic stuff, I don't know if that was even thought of then, but you did a blooming good job of sorting it out yourself. So I think that is a technique that anyone could use now. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because I enjoy speaking, I speak too much sometimes, and I'm listening to you saying it. I'm thinking, okay, actually, I could have said this a lot more succinctly in a way that people can take away. And one of the things I go through my clients with is, and this is great for doctors because we know this really well, is the ABCD of negative thinking, and essentially, it's what you just said. When this thing comes at you, you actually do need to pay attention to it. You don't ignore it, because sometimes there is something in there that you need to acknowledge. There is something in there that you need to self-reflect on and go, actually, is this really what it is? That's the first thing. And that was one of the things I did. Is this something that I really need to pay attention to? Could I be less aggressive? Okay, maybe I can try to, lower my tone and whatever. What if it makes my life a little easier? That's fine. I can do something like that. But pay attention to the thought is actually important. Do not discount it. The second thing is, when you do this analysis of the thought, so attention and analyze, do you need to believe it? Is this, when you actually analyze the thought, now that you've paid attention to it, is it something that is true? Is it something that you need to believe? And if you're not sure whether you need to believe it, challenge it. And this is the part you were talking about where I went, well, hang on a minute. I've got friends. I've got really good friends. These are really good people. What is it? And then I would actually take the opportunity to go to those people and say, listen, this is something that's worrying me. What do you think? And I'd really listen and try not to get offended and try not to get all huffety about it, because there is often something in there that you can take away from it on self and on improving yourself.
Yeah.
And thirdly, when you've gone through this analysis and this the querying the belief and the challenging, then comes the, well, okay, what do I do now? Do I discount it, or do I delete it, or do I actually really need to do something about it now that I have some more information?
Yeah.
And lastly, what are your options in this? If you discount it, that is it. You discount it, let it go, forget about it, stop thinking about it, doesn't matter anymore. If you're not going to discount it and you actually think there is something credible in there and a learning opportunity for yourself, explore your options for dealing with it. Is this something that you can work on? Is this a skill set? Is this a personal thing? Is this something that you could go to someone else about and get help about? So that was kind of how it happened. It was the ABCDE of this negative thinking. And often we are taught when we have negative thoughts to start at the bottom with discounting them. And I think that's not necessarily the right way, because what I have found is every now and then somebody will tell you something that you don't want to hear, and it is for your benefit. But if you start by going, oh, that's negative, and that's a negative, and that's created negative feelings in me and negative thoughts, and I'm just going to count it, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to win at life. Sometimes, you got to have the difficult conversations, and you got to be able to take that and grow from it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's a really good framework. You're bringing in sort of growth mindset there. There could well be something in that, and I'm wanting to improve myself, so I'm gonna take that on board and see how I can work with that. No, you're right. Acknowledging it, getting a sense check from what I call trusted counsel, your best friends and your family. And I say this to victims of bullying, if you run the scenario past someone that you truly trust, in their opinion, was it bullying, or was it that you were feeling oversensitive that day and your boss was just in a particularly grumpy mood or something like that? But also, just making it not about you, as you talked before about it being the system that's at fault. That's fantastically empowering, isn't it? Depersonalizing it, say it's not me. It's happening to other people as well. So then you just kind of allowing yourself to not be taking the blame, not be at fault, which is just so powerful. Okay, let's just kind of coming towards the end. I just wanted to talk about, like, you've obviously worked with some really good leaders, medical leaders, and I think one that kind of sticks out for me is perhaps the one who was your clinical tutor when you were an SHO in Yorkshire, and who was supportive and encouraging. And I'm sure there are other good leadership role model that you've worked with in the past. And obviously you will have, we all learn good leadership skills from other people, but also you've done an MBA, and so you've learned yourself through your own experience and through learning as well. And clearly you've been on the receiving end of some very bad leadership, and learnt what not to do. And thankfully, unlike I'm sorry to say this, but quite a few doctors who end up modeling themselves on bad leaders, and they then perpetuate the cycle of bad leadership into the next generation. You clearly sort of saw that and railed against that and thought that's bad leadership. I don't want to be like that. So can you tell me some of the good things you've learned about leadership and some of the bad things you've learned from your experiences?
I think when I look at myself and many of the leaders I've encountered, and it's really interesting when I think of leadership, and you said this right at the very beginning, it's not just, we often think only about leadership within our careers and within our professional roles. But I really have made an effort to pay attention to leadership outside within the community of life. Looking at, and everybody who knows me knows that, I go on and on and on about my mother and my grandmother, who I realized as an adult, I always get very emotional when I talk about this, were exceptional leaders. And I didn't appreciate that at the time when they were alive. To be a good leader, first you need to know yourself. And this is the bit that comes from the bit where I talk about the successful career and a happy life. A lot of doctors don't know what they want. They don't know who they are. They don't actually have a definition of success or happiness that is unique and personalized to them. If you don't know that for yourself, you will be forever on the treadmill of the next thing that comes along, whatever the next thing you want to do, right? Because you've been told that that's what you should be doing. As a leader, you need to know yourself. You need to know what it is you want. You need to know why you want it, and you need to know how you're going to go about getting it. You need to know what you're good at, and you need to know and be honest with yourself about what needs improving. And you need to know that you will never be able to fix everything about yourself. You probably don't need to, but you do need to know how to get to the people who can help you mitigate those little holes in your own leadership, right? You need to be honest and say, I'm not good at this, but XYZ is, and I'm going to give it to them. I'm going to trust them. I'm going to delegate it to them and leave them to run with it, right? The third thing about being a good leader is the people around you. Get rid of the naysayers, get rid of the haters. Seriously, even if it's your own family, I've done it. I'm not saying it's easy. Get rid of them. Don't have them in your life. They're not helpful, right? And the people that you do have in your life, you cherish them. You care about them. You listen to them. You take advice from them. You can't always do what they tell you, because as a leader, sometimes you just have to take the autocratic route and do what needs to be done. And you have to be willing to accept that sometimes some people will just be unhappy with that, right? But you cannot discount the people around you. You must listen to them, and you must listen because their perspective is different. And we get told that we must reframe problems so that we can find solutions. You don't need to do it on your own. You've got people around you to help you with that reframing. The third thing I would say that will make you an excellent leader, and again, as physicians, we are not taught this, invest in yourself. And I'm not talking about going to do an MBA. I did that. I'm not talking about those things. I'm not talking about getting the next qualification. I'm not talking about getting the next certificate, the next thing to put on the wall. Invest in yourself as a person. What do you need? What do you want? There are days, and we just moved house. And let me tell you, the last 3, you know this, we just moved house. The last 3 weeks, my investment in myself is to just sit down and be quiet. Because it's been so overwhelming. And it's like, okay, you know what? I don't have to post on Facebook every day. I don't have to post on, people know I'm there. They know how to reach me. And when I have that energy within my mind, my heart, and my spirit to put that energy back out there, I will do it. But for right now, I need to sit quietly for a bit. Self-care is another one of those words that get thrown about, like the resilience thing, right? And it's like, okay, self-care doesn't mean that you have to go on a 5-star holiday. It doesn't mean that it can, self-care, again, it goes back to personalization right at the beginning. Know yourself. What is it that you need? Okay, yes, everybody's talking about mindfulness and yoga and gratitude and all of these things, and they're all great things. but are they what you need? What do you need? Do you need to paint your toenails? Do you need to go for a walk? Do you need to count all the fingers that you have? Because when you do that, you can pull yourself back in and take a breath. All these are just techniques. And as doctors, we are also told that we need to be exceptional at everything, and we need to be exceptional at everything we do. So self-care is a hobby. So, but doctors can't have mediocre hobbies. You know, you got to be mountain climbing, or you got to be triathletes, and no, you can't just knit quietly in a corner. You know, you can't just mow the lawn and that be mowing the lawn. For me is self-care. I really miss it indoor because we don't have lawns. But you know, in the UK, one of the things that really would relax me is to take out the lawnmower and just mow the lawn, just up and down. And I'd finish mowing the lawn and I'd sit back and I'd see the job I've done, and I'd feel, and that's my self-care. You know, so those are the three things I would say. Know yourself. Surround yourself with the right people and care for them and listen to them. And invest in yourself. There is no money too much to spend on yourself. There is no money too little to spend on yourself. And you get that little package there, and that's it. You're off. Nobody can hold you back, no matter what it is you choose to do in life.
Whoa. That's great. That's great. I mean, the great thing about it is it's quite simple, you know, isn't it? It's the simplicity of it that's really beautiful. You know, they're very easy to imagine approaches. They're not hugely aspirational, like, you know, like you say, you already have the MBA, I don't, but I'm certainly not putting that on my list. To improve my leadership skills. No, I've done enough exams. But no, that's wonderful. And I like that. And I think
just do stuff because you want to.
And you know, sorry. Ultimately, I guess it comes down to then if you truly know yourself, and I guess, you know, it's like like knowing your values, isn't it? Really, that's you know, that's been a revelation for me since I looked properly at my values, and surrounding yourself with people that are essentially are good for you, isn't it? And then looking after yourself.
Good for them too.
No, true. No, it's totally a two-way street. That's a really great foundation for everything else within leadership, isn't it? You can tackle anything then, I guess. And as you say, at work you reach out to other people to do the things that you can't do, and that's one of the things where doctors go wrong as well, isn't it? They think it's drilled into us that we should be able to do everything. I think it's a weakness to ask other people for help. But God, you know, leaders can't be amazing at everything, and so they have to find people to work with who can do the things that they can't do. That's great. Wow, thank you so much. Was there anything else you wanted to add on the subject?
Oh no, it's great talking with you, Adam. I'm as inspired by you as you are by me, 100%. And this is what I mean about enjoying things that work for you. And because I decided I wanted to do this, coaching thing. I wanted to help the doctors. That's how I meet people like you. If I'd never done this, I don't think our paths would have crossed in any other way.
It's true.
And having you in my life enriches my life, you know? And it's like, you just don't realize where the joy is going to come from.
It's true.
But if you sort of just let go and just go, right, you know what, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm going to enjoy, you will be surprised what else the universe will bring to you. And you know, it's networking and relationships like this, and you know, being able to listen to, like, the last podcast you did, I'm sorry, I can't forget, I've forgotten her name, with the runner, where she was
Oh
talking
yeah,
about perfectionism. I'm
yeah,
like, yes, this is
Michelle
it.
Quirk. Yeah,
Just do it and have fun.
yeah,
It doesn't need to be perfect.
yeah, yeah,
But we just don't understand that as a people. And as doctors, it's 10 times worse
yeah,
for us. It's really great being here with you, because I'm actually doing something I enjoy doing.
yeah.
And today's my day off, and I don't feel as if it's like it's my day off and I'm doing something I don't want to be doing. I'm doing something I want to be doing.
Yeah,
So it's great,
yeah.
you know? And
Totally.
I
I
think
under
that's what I want people to take away.
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
what you enjoy.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I mean, I can't thank you enough. I know you've been in kind of in the maelstrom with your moving home recently, and I'm 3 days before we're leaving New Zealand after 2 years in the Antipodes, and we're heading back to the UK. And so I'm looking out at packed and half-packed suitcases in front of me, and it's 10 o'clock here in New Zealand, and I'm like, keep my eyes open. But I'm loving it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't be doing anything else at this time, at this stage of my life, than talking to you, because and you're right, it's coaching as a journey has brought you into my life, and many other new special friends into my life, and it really is an honor to be in your orbit, to be honest, and to learn from you. And there are so many things that we touched on. We touched on mindset, and we touched on the kind of the bullying and discrimination side of things and all of that, and I'm hoping that we've got a good few other conversations in us for the future. So but thank you. I just want to give you the opportunity to share your how people can contact you and reach out to you, and perhaps just a little synopsis of what you can do for doctors, with Doctors Caring for Doctors, your organization, and what your social media handles are and all of that, so that people can really reach out to you, because I mean, what a resource you are, the things you've been through. Yeah, go for it.
Thank you. So Doctors Caring for Doctors, you'll find us on Facebook. You will find us on, that's the website as well. Instagram and Twitter, they were a little bit funny, and Clubhouse, but because the handle is too long. So it's at Doctors Caring for those ones. And that's the best way to find me. You can send me a DM on any of those channels, and I will respond as soon as I can, because I am a full-time anaesthetist still. Yeah. And how do I help doctors? I think it's the whole amalgamation of the conversation we just had. It really is about understanding who you are, your why, your motivations, and because as physicians, I've come across with my clients, we don't have this basic understanding. Many of us we come into medicine for all kinds of reasons. A lot of us came into medicine because we thought that's what we were told we should do. And that doesn't mean that we don't enjoy it. It just means it's a different why for us. And your why will help you decide what it is that you want to get out of your medical career. And your why may be that you want to get out of a medical career. And this is where we start with the doctors who come to me. What is it? What is your why? Why are you here? Why did you come to me? Is it a work-life balance thing? Is it my life is great, but work's not great? And funnily enough, it all comes back to who you are and what you want to achieve in your life, and owning that. Because it's okay to want a big house and a big car. That's okay. If that brings you the security that you need in your life for you to enjoy having a happy and fulfilled life, that's great. Own it. If you just genuinely just want to help people, and that's great, just own it. Whatever it is that has brought you to medicine, just own it. And it's okay to do that. And the decisions that you make thereafter will all be based on who you are and what you want to do with your life, the legacy you want to leave behind, who you want to be. If you want to be that physician, like that everybody, when you say their name, they know exactly who you are, that's great. Work for that. but do it in a way that is aligned with your values and your beliefs. One of our mutual colleagues, Dr. Rachel, has a podcast called I Am Not a Frog. And it's a brilliant name because as doctors, we believe that we can't change our environment. We just sit in it and the water gets hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter until we boil. And we think that we don't have a choice. And at Doctors Caring, that's what I want you to understand. You do have a choice. You always have a choice. You don't have to be where you are now. You can be satisfied with it. You can want to be somewhere else. That's all okay. But you always have a choice. You have a choice. You can be happy in your career and in your life. And it's okay to own the reasons why you make the decisions you make. And it sounds simple, but it does take a lot of internal work because we are often living lives where we don't take responsibility for our own happiness. And we think we have to do things a certain way. But with Doctors Caring, what I want you to do is care for yourself the way you care for your patients. When you sit with your patients and you consult with them, you want them to help them make the best decisions for themselves, not the decision for their partner or their spouse or their parent, the best decision for you. When I sit with a patient who's having a complex surgery and they're a complex patient, one of the questions I always ask is, why do you want to have this procedure done? Is this going to be life-changing for you? Yes. No. Why? It always goes back to your why. So with Doctors Caring, there are three things: your why, your choice in your why, and knowing that, as you said, you're enough with any of those first two choices that you make.
Yeah.
That's it.
Awesome. Beautiful. It sounds like you've created a very safe space for doctors to talk about their problems, their concerns. And just knowing you and knowing your personality, I know that you would hold that space really, really beautifully for them and make them feel very, very secure and happy to open up. So I would recommend any doctors, kind of experiencing those sorts of issues and concerns to reach out to you. I think it's great what you do, and I think you do it absolutely beautifully. So thank you. On behalf of the profession, thank you.
Oh my God, you're going to make me blush again.
Right, good. So until our next conversation, I'll say goodbye to Dr. Pauline Morris, and I will get your social media handles as well and just put them in the notes for the YouTube video as well. All right.
All right.
Thank you again so much.
Great conversation. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Cheers. Thanks, Pauline. Bye.